Welcome to our channel, The Cactus Atlas. My name's Glenn, and this is our 2023 Top 10 Off-Road Adventures Ranked.
And my name's Slim. I'm Glenn's Chevy Colorado ZR2 and the workhorse of our little operation here. Glenn and I decided to compile a list of our top 10 favorite off-pavement drives that we did in 2023. The main qualification was that the bulk of the drive had to be on dirt. Other than that, it was a difficult list to rank, but we did it.
Couldn't agree more. Each place was number one in some way or another, and maybe your list will be different than ours. Well, let's not delay. It's time to jump into our top 10, starting with our very first.
Number 10, Sears Point. Have you ever driven between Phoenix and San Diego on Interstate 8 and wondered what could possibly be out in the barren wastes, out towards the almost always dry Gila River? Well, as we found out, there's a treasure trove of history back there. Because it's close to the Gila River, that area has been a well-used travel route from between 500 AD all the way to the 1800s, when the Butterfield stagecoach route passed through these parts. The main draw out this way is a little-known spot called Sears Point, where prehistoric cultures left their marks for hundreds of years before Columbus set foot in the New World. To get there, we drove down a well-maintained dirt road that's listed as Avenue 76 East on Google Maps. On the way to see the petroglyphs, we found the remains of an interesting building, presumably an old ranch house. I'll pass it over to Glenn, who does the footwork.
Yeah, we're still not exactly sure what the structure was, but it was really interesting. As always, we love getting comments from people who have facts, so don't hesitate to contribute to the overall community. Oh man, you can see this whole side, this whole wall just came falling out. Seen that before with these kinds of structures. You know, like from an aesthetic perspective though, this is probably one of the coolest structures of this sort that I've seen in a long time. Very photogenic if you're into that.
As we continued down the road, we came upon a small labyrinth of curvy, sandy roads, which made us think this is probably not a good spot to be after a heavy rain. Many vehicles can make it back here, but just know, if something goes wrong, you're a long way from help.
We finally arrived at the petroglyphs, where I had to leave Slim behind to explore the dark basalt outcroppings for signs of the past. I explored the cliffside as well as areas up above, and it didn't take long to find what we were looking for. So I'm on the lookout for lots of things. There are markings from multiple cultures out here. That of the Hohokam, probably the most well-known. Also another culture called the Patayans from Southern California. And even the markings I hear of people going back 10,000 years or so. I walked all over the area and often found nice concentrations of petroglyphs. The trick is to look where the paths are created by foot traffic, and that often takes you to places of interest, like the last panels we discovered, which was our best find of the day.
All in all, Sears Point beat out other worthy contenders to make our top 10 list of best off-road excursions in 2023, but the drive itself was not very exciting. We recommend it for those interested in prehistoric cultures, but not for those looking for an exciting off-road adventure. Number 9, Robber's Roost. Our top 10 list would not be complete without an off-road route near Sedona, Arizona. We had never been out to see the fairly well-known Robber's Roost, which if you've been on Instagram enough, you'll likely recognize this one. We've also heard it referred to as the Shaman's Cave or the Hideout Cave, so named for the legends Glenn will tell us about in a bit. The roads to get there are well-maintained forest roads for about 11 miles. The views along the way are top tier, and the snow left on some of the mountaintops on that cool spring day made the drive all the more magical. This is a great one for views, especially off towards Sedona. The gist of this one is, drive the roads, enjoy the views, and take your time. Along the way, eat a picnic lunch out of the back of your car like Glenn did.
I got this view for lunch. One of many views. I'm out here putting the finishing touches on my ham sandwich. I don't think you can say you've thoroughly explored anywhere until you've had a picnic lunch there. Then you can say you check it off the list.
The next item of business is to get to the Hideout Cave trailhead. The final ride to the trailhead is only suitable for the right kind of vehicle, and most people decided to park out a ways and walk the final distance to the trailhead. We, of course, enjoyed this part, but it was bumpy, albeit short. From there, Glenn had to get out on foot and hike the rest of the way up to the cave.
That should be Robber's Roost, looking at my offline map. The hike up was very short and easy in our opinion. It's a beautiful walk, but there's one spot that other hikers were a little apprehensive to do with dangerous drop-offs. The cave itself is a thing of legend. They say that back in the day, cattle rustlers and other bandits hid out here since they could see the law coming from miles away and could not be spotted within the cave's shadows. Other evidence of polished stone made us think that this was likely a place the ancients dwelled in. Perhaps this is why the place is also known as the Shaman's Cave. Whatever the case, the views here were second to none, and finally seeing the cave for ourselves made for a worthy day trip.
The Robber's Roost was an enjoyable excursion, and while it had the views and a point of interest to go with it, it just couldn't compete with others in our list in the area of thrills. Definitely worthy of our list, but not the most epic off-road drive of the year. Number 8. Mojave Volcanoes. A while back, we were studying satellite imagery of a section of the Mojave Desert and remarked how it looked like the surface of a distant volcanic moon. From that day forward, it became our duty to investigate. Believe it or not, there's a field of volcanoes, cinder cones to be specific, dotting the landscape of the Mojave Desert. Evidence of volcanism is everywhere here, like tall walls of black basalt rock, reminiscent of something you'd see in Hawaii.
This is that black volcanic rock, and it is hot. That burns my fingers.
But wait, there's more. Up the road a ways, we actually drove up a cinder cone, and guess what we found? An old, defunct cinder mine. It's like they just clocked out for their last shift and left everything where it stood. Glenn explored more on foot.
So basically, what they were doing here was mining the guts of an extinct cinder cone volcano. They extracted and crushed up cinders to provide landscaping material to nearby cities like Las Vegas. A viewer also noted that the cinders used to be used on snowy roadways in places like Northern California during the winter, until that practice was banned. For me, I like pretending I'm exploring a mining operation on a recently terraformed Mars.
So one might say on this episode that I took you inside the heart of an old volcano. Because I imagine if you were standing in this general location when this thing was in its prime, burping up all this stuff, probably wasn't a very fun area to be in.
You really get a perspective of the mass volcanism that existed in this area from up on this cinder cone, but there's still more to see, and this time, it's below ground. The final stretch of road had lots of sharp volcanic rock, but we made it to our final stop, a small lava cave. And once more, we had to send in Glenn to do his thing.
All I had to do now was find a hole in the ground and descend some stairs. And after a little bit of duck walking, I felt like I entered an Indiana Jones movie with light beams revealing the location of a hidden treasure. To be honest, the timing was coincidental. The light just hit right that day.
You might be thinking, how is this one only number 8 on our countdown? While you get your volcano's worth on this route, the competition is fierce this year. Just wait to see what's coming up. Number 7, Sego Ghost Town. Number 7 on our list starts on pavement, but as you'll soon see, the pavement crumbles away into dirt, making it a worthy contender. While the drive trends towards very easy and good conditions, what makes this route special are the sights along the way. Before you kick up dust, you can explore Thompson Springs, a contemporary of the ghost town we're seeking out. Thompson was a hub on a railroad network that included a connection to the coal mining town of Sego. We especially like the look of this old hotel.
It really is a beautiful old building. I love stuff like this. And actually, if we look at this side of the sign, you could still see some of the tubing up there for the neon.
Up the road, we found an original schoolhouse built in 1907, and we found a clue hinting at the next spot on the tour. A highlight of this drive was a stop to view mysterious pictographs or rock paintings done by a mixture of cultures that Glenn will tell you a bit about.
These pictographs are a mix that were made at different times by the Utes, Fremont, and Archaic peoples. Interspersed within the panels are the markings of more recent contributors. Some of them are haunting to look at. There's something more human and expressive about pictographs compared to petroglyphs in our opinion. To those who painted these, were their designs religious in origin? Do they depict deities they prayed to for life-sustaining rains?
We still had much ground to cover, and up the road we found the remains of what may have been a home or service station of some sort. The area also appeared to have a cut, presumably made for the railroad. The drive through the canyon should also not be understated. The beauty up there with the clouds blowing through was legendary that day. We eventually made our way to what remains of Sego, Utah, former coal mining town with its own dang railroad. You can even spot evidence of it if you look carefully. The highlight for us was the old company store. It made a great subject for our video that day.
This is the American Fuel Company store. You think about like a lot of these structures I seek out in ghost towns, the wooden ones are almost all gone and disintegrated with time, but the ones built with stones, just like those of the ancestral Puebloan cultures and other cultures in the Southwest, those have stood the test of time in many cases. So these will probably stand the test of time. Maybe 1,000 years from now, this stonework will still be here in some form.
All in all, the trip to Sego Canyon was a memorable one that we'll never forget. So long as the roads are dry, this is one that almost any car can accomplish. The real selling points are the views and human history. Congrats, Sego, for making our 2023 list. Number 6, Crown King. An epic but relatively simple off-pavement drive near Phoenix, Arizona, is the drive up to Crown King, the site of a former gold mining town. There's tons of history to see throughout the entire drive, as well as legendary views. There are several ways to get to Crown King, and we've done a couple of them, but so far we found this particular route to be the simplest way to get a burger at the old CK Saloon. The drive begins right off Interstate 17, where we passed by Bumblebee, a former stagecoach stop back in the 1800s. Up the road a ways, we found the town of Cleator, which early in the morning was easy to explore. The afternoon before, it was wall-to-wall side-by-sides. Cleator has roots in the 1800s, back when it was known as Turkey Creek. There are still some era buildings here.
All right, this is Cleator in 2023. Town's well over 100 years old and still services thirsty patrons at this bar today.
After Cleator, you'll ascend up many switchbacks that follow much of the course of the Crown King branch, a railroad that was completed in 1904 and connected Crown King to the Prescott and Eastern Railroad. Here you'll get spectacular views and marvel at how they built a railroad here over 100 years ago. It was such a feat, the railroad was known as Murphy's Impossible Railroad. Finally, you'll roll into the historic town of Crown King, Arizona. This was our favorite part. We arrived early on a Sunday morning to get some cool shots of the town. A highlight for us was the Crown King Saloon, an era relic transported from another nearby town in 1906. The CK Saloon is a great place to grab a beer and a burger after a day of off-roading.
So I would say this is a worthy Sunday drive to get a burger. Yeah, I think it's worth the adventure and the Sunday drive. Even we did get here a little early. It's 11:17 a.m. now, and this is a treat.
The drive up to Crown King via this route is a must-do in the Phoenix metro area. Get to know more of the mining history of the area and it will enrich your experience. We may have ranked this one higher if they were more accepting of hippies like us, but when it's all said and done, big thumbs up. Number 5. Hualapai Mountains. After an overnight stay in Needles, California, where the temperature got up to 119 degrees Fahrenheit, we thought it would be a good idea to take a break from the heat and drive through the sky island of the Hualapai Mountains to get back home to Phoenix. It's a drive we've never completed before, so we didn't want to squander the opportunity. On our way up the road to our first stop, we encountered a couple of interested creatures.
All right, no sooner than I said I wasn't gonna film, this strange phenomenon happened. Like, these calves just kind of ran really fast into the middle of the road. I thought they were trying to run away from me, and then they just stopped. So, are they looking for their mama?
One of the highlights of this route is the Boreana Mine, Arizona's largest producer of tungsten in the World War I era.
We've explored this area before, but when you combine the views with a mining history, it's one of our favorite off-roading destinations. There's also an isolated spring that appears to have once supplied water to the mining operation, but now serves as a home to some goldfish we see up here every time we pass through.
Despite the looming presence of a thunderstorm, we decided to keep driving up and over the mountains. At times, the drop-offs on the side of the road are downright precipitous. For many miles, we dodged recently fallen rocks. It would be a trick to turn around on a road like this at times, so the prospect of a large boulder obstacle was a constant worry. And the worry became true when we had to pass over one. I got the equivalent of a curb chip during that, but it was barely a flesh wound. Adds character, right? And so it went for miles and miles. The best part for us was the top of the peaks, where the views really opened up. We could see that the storm had safely passed over us and was heading north towards Kingman.
Looking back to the road we had driven to get to this point contributed to a sense of accomplishment. For a moment there, I felt like Slim and I were kings of the world on that Sunday. It's a view I'll not soon forget. Just thankful for my truck Slim for getting us to places like this.
Aw, thanks Glenn. You're all right too, but just watch it with the large rocks next time. It was a lengthy drive down the other side of the mountains, and this part was much different in that the route passed through dense pine forests. There were a lot of campgrounds back here, as well as mining history. Stuff we had to save for another time, as Amy was waiting for us to get home from our trip.
This is one I wanted to do for years, and I'm so grateful we made it up and over those mountains. Can't wait to go back and find out what we missed. Mission accomplished.
Okay, so we're over halfway there now, counting down to our favorite drives. Even though it didn't rank at the very top, this was one of the most thrilling drives we did this year. One we can't recommend enough, for the right kind of vehicle, of course. Number 4. Bloody Basin. If you live in the Phoenix metro area and you own an off-road capable vehicle, you've likely taken a drive down the Bloody Basin Road. If not, make it a goal to do this one in 2024. For our adventure, we opted to drive the entire length to the Sheep's Bridge in the Tonto National Forest. This is one of the longest off-road drives we did in 2023. OnX Off-Road says it takes 8 hours to complete. We had to do this over a 2-day period.
Okay, I'll take the blame on this one. I looked at the total miles and didn't account for how rough and slow going this road gets, and we had to come back the next day to complete it. If you want to do the whole thing, start early, camp overnight at the bridge, or be prepared to drive back in the dark.
We started our route right off Interstate 17 at the Bloody Basin Road exit. For a while, the road is well maintained, with a river crossing that we've never had an issue getting through.
No problem. No problem.
The first spot of note is the descent into the Bloody Basin, one of the best parts of the drive. The red dirt and expansive views are awe-inspiring.
We did this route during the spring when the poppies were blooming. Along the way we found many beautiful orange islands in the hills. The desert was alive that spring day. It's amazing to see how lush and alive the Sonoran Desert can be after abundant rain.
The last few miles down to the bridge were very rocky. It was not technically hard, but a good case for airing down your tires. Just be sure to take a vehicle that can do this. Eventually, you'll make it to the bridge. The Verde River was overflowing its banks that day, a pretty rare sight out in these parts.
The bridge is a historic crossing for sheep. The remnants of the original bridge remain, but a newer operational bridge allows you to walk over to the Mazatzal Wilderness area, part of the Tonto National Forest. The bridge was one of our favorite subjects to film this year. Seeing the Verde overflowing its banks was a sight.
All in all, the Bloody Basin Road experience is one we'll not soon forget. You get views, some excitement, and there's a worthy destination. Out of all our off-road drives this year, this one required the most endurance and patience. Definitely worthy to be in our top 5 of 2023. Number 3, Valley of the Gods. Okay, so we may be cheating a little on this next one since we are combining 2 drives into one. To get the most out of a drive through Valley of the Gods, we'd recommend starting your adventure at the top of the Moki Dugway. Oh, and the good news is, this entire route is okay for any vehicle, so long as it hasn't recently rained. The Moki Dugway begins 1,200 feet above the desert floor, giving you eagle-eye views on a clear day. Just standing up there made us feel like we were flying. The road has 11% grades and hairpin turns, but don't let that scare you. We saw a guy bicycle down it while there, so if he can do it, so can you.
I've driven the Moki Dugway both up and down more times than I can count. The novelty is not worn off to this day, just as mind-blowing as the first time. I've seen many videos including ours of this drive. While we got some amazing footage on this day, nothing can replace it as an in-person experience. Video just doesn't capture the scales.
Now, if you think things can't get any better, just wait until you see what awaits. From the bottom, we are a short drive away from Valley of the Gods. At first, you might think, okay, where's this valley worthy of gods? But it doesn't take long to enter the valley proper. And when you see it, you'll know you've arrived. The Valley of the Gods is free, unlike Monument Valley, which is often compared to this drive. We still think both are worth doing, and each is beautiful in its own way.
The entire area contains many dispersed campsites, so you can spend a night here amongst the towering buttes. Tent campers beware though, the ground is solid rock, and we could not find any ground we could stake into, and it was a windy day.
The only thing preventing this one from being at the top of the list is the easy nature of the drive. Yes, it's all off pavement, suitable for just about any vehicle, but way too easy to earn a top spot. We do want to stress that it was one of the highlights of our year, and an unforgettable experience. Might win in the area of best views alone. Ranking these drives is a hard business. Number 2, the Nelson Rollercoaster. If you want to know the truth, we had ranked the Nelson Rollercoaster number 1 on our list until we made a last-minute change, and we'll summarize why in a bit. Many of you are familiar with a photogenic little ghost town named Nelson, Nevada. The common way in is a regular paved road, the way almost all folks go. Because we got a show to make, we thought it would be fun to take the back way in on our very first visit. Back way in, you say? Yep. And it's a doozy. It may also have been the most fun we had in 2023. To get started, you'll find an easy-to-miss turnout off Route 95 near Boulder City, Nevada, that follows power lines. Use something like Onyx Off-Road's maps, and you'll have no problem finding it.
The first couple miles are quite boring as you follow the power lines. The main point of interest was a shot-up vehicle, reminiscent of something you'd come across in Fallout New Vegas. For the first few miles, I admit I was a skeptic. I thought this one might turn out to be a dud.
As we continued up the road, things got more interesting. There are many old mine roads and places to explore back there, and we came across one such relic.
We found an old mine. It was really fun to explore the grounds and peek down a couple of the ones we found.
Not far after that, we learned where this route got its name. It became clear that we had to cross over the rolling foothills of the El Dorado Mountains, and some of them were steep. We had to deploy Phoenix 2, our drone, a couple times to scout out the other side of the hills as we could not see over the hood as we went up and over. There was at least one time we would have gone off the road if the drone view didn't help correct our trajectory.
As the driver, I concur. And while Phoenix 2 got cool shots from the air, it actually played more of a role in safety that day. An essential for a solo driver in my opinion. Best spotter ever.
And don't kid yourself. A couple of those hills were steep enough to have gravity carry the truck downhill while braked. Because the safe play here is to make sure you don't go up and over too fast, you need grip if you want to do it safely in a larger vehicle like ours. We made use of 4-low for this purpose on the steepest hills. So yes, we feel 4-wheel drive is necessary to do this safely. Okay, now that the safety seminar is complete, let's get to the main point. This route is pure fun. The most fun drive of the year by far, and perhaps a contender for a lifetime award. The main reason to do this is for the Mojave Desert vibes and thrills. And when you roll into Nelson, you'll have a quiet satisfaction on your face when you see all them tourists. Wait, technically, Glenn, you're a tourist too.
All right, I won't disagree. But doing this had to raise the badass bar at least a rung or two, right?
Okay, you've come all the way through 9 of our favorite off-pavement drives, ranked. We commend you. Now it's time to see what we rank number 1 on our list. Are you ready? Number 1, San Rafael Swell.
I remember the first time I drove down Buckhorn Draw Road. Years back, I did it in Amy's Volkswagen Golf. Other than getting it really dirty, it was easily doable. Never in my life has a place almost brought me to my knees with its beauty. Around every corner, the views get better and better. It's unreal at times, and the ending, should you choose to pursue it, seals the deal. More on that in a bit. To add to it, there's a variety of super interesting stops along the way. Slim, why don't you tell them a little bit about the drive?
On this particular trip, we started right off Interstate 70. Going this direction, the first point of interest was a sinkhole. We've explored this a couple times, and with Phoenix 2's help, we finally got to see inside of it. Nothing mind-blowing, but the views up here are worth the stop, a worthy appetizer. Shortly after, the iconic Utah landscapes we were seeking started to make themselves known. Now, I never thought I looked any better than on that day. What do you say, folks? It almost looks like one of those truck commercials you see on TV.
Okay, Slim, that's a little vain, but I totally get what you mean. Further down the road, there's a couple campgrounds and a historic bridge that crosses the San Rafael River, once used to move cattle across safely. Once again, views straight out of heaven. We've not yet camped in this area, but it's high on the list, perhaps in 2024.
And once more, those truck commercial backdrops. If you're going to be vain and show off like us, this is absolutely the place to do it. This segment of the drive was my favorite part for views.
My favorite stop on the whole route is the Buckhorn Wash pictograph panel. To me, out of all the ones we've seen, like in Sego Canyon, these went out for the most creepy. there's lots of anthropomorphs, weird figures, and downright strange scenes. It's the kind of place those ancient alien types like to talk about. I can tell you from experiences, these are about as strange as it gets. What's more, a sign pointed out how some of the chests on the figures had holes pecked in them, asking us to ponder, could ritual sacrifice be a reason? Really creepy. We've read that these pictographs could be anywhere between 1,500 and 4,000 years of age.
If all that is not cool enough, how about if we throw in a dinosaur footprint? Yes, you heard me right.
For real, there's a dinosaur footprint right off the road. Folks put some rocks around it to help spot it, which on our short time frame that day I kind of appreciated. The mark is said to be about 180 million years old, made by a type of dinosaur known as an ornithopod. The name means bird feet, which makes sense when you see it.
And if that's still not enough, we saved the very best for last. The route we took concludes at the San Rafael Swell's very own Little Grand Canyon, most commonly referred to as the Wedge. Calling it a Little Grand Canyon is pretty accurate. This place is one of the premier views in the American Southwest, and it's so far out in the middle of nowhere. Not many venture out this way. We timed the drive perfectly and arrived around sunset, and got to see the Wedge in all its glory.
This is another place we need to come back and camp at. The San Rafael Swell has become our favorite place to explore to date, and we barely popped the top on it. But hopefully you can see there are many reasons to come check it out for yourselves.
And there you have it, folks. The San Rafael Swell, Buckhorn Draw, the Wedge. So much variety, so many views. We had to push this one to the top of our list. And it's a drive almost anyone can do. So what are you waiting for? 2024 is upon us, and the deserts are calling.
I can't believe the year has already come to an end, and so have our 2023 adventures. You'll be seeing more of Slim and I doing off-roading in 2024, so if you don't want to miss out, be sure to subscribe.
And tell your friends, and above all, get out there and seek these places out for yourselves. It's a magical world out there, and 2024 is going to be the best year yet. See you all out on the road. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Alright, see you guys next time.